Hey, this is the antisocial socialite back at it again. Thanks so much for everyone who is tuning in or will tune in. If you are new to the channel or you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for, darling? Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell. So when I get to running this mouth, baby, you are in the loop. You can see the title, you know what time it is. As I was going through YouTube, I don't know how I got into this video, but I suddenly came across a video around South Korea. And the title is very catchy because it says, South Korea, South Korean children are being, the academic pressure is pushing South Korean students to end their own life. Okay. And obviously, a title like that is very catchy, but we know from the stereotype that people who are from Southeast Asia tend to be very education orientated. And so when I clicked on the video and I watched it, I was impressed. And I said to myself, this is something that a lot of people in the Black community can really learn from. Now, obviously, the culture is different and it's extreme. Okay, it's very education orientated, and there's a lot of familial pressure. I think South Korea is one of those places where people generally tend to still have one or two children, which means that if you have a child, that child is often going to have several adults who are putting pressure on them to perform. So being pressured to academically perform to the point where you don't feel like you want to continue living is obviously extreme, but there's obviously a happy medium. As I said in previous videos, some psychologists would suggest that for every 30 minutes that a child spends, sorry, for every hour that a child spends over 2 hours watching TV, the chances of them going into criminality is increased by 30%. So it's been shown that Black children watch some of the highest amounts of TV and spend the least amount of time on homework. And that correlates with why you have a lot of children who end up um, going into criminal behavior. It increases the chances of them even becoming homeless. And as we talked before, I don't really have time for people who make arguments about why Black men don't perform or why we have a lot of the issues that we have, because it always starts at the home. It will always start with the way you were raised. And so the impact of stress, lack of investment, neglect, all of these things are going to impact how you develop as a child. And I did have a article open because when we were doing the last live stream regarding the impact of childhood sexual abuse on females and their ability to be mothers, there was one article that I did want to open, and I didn't even read all of it, but I regret not reading it, because as I scrolled down and it talked about all of the implications, we're talking about increased risk of drug use, we're talking about increased risk of unemployment, criminal behavior, and one of them was homelessness. We know that a decent number of people who are homeless are majority are men, and many of them are Black men. And it all ties in together. There's no point talking about the lack of productivity of Black men if you're not going to address the environment that these Black men come from in the first place. And one of the things that we definitely have a lack in the Black community is the emphasis and the respect for education. So I'm going to play some of this video, but obviously I don't want copyright problems. So I'm going to chip in and out. and maybe just give a little commentary. And I'm not going to play all of it. It's a 25 minute video, but I will link it in the description below. So if you want to go and watch the whole thing, you can. So let's crack on.
It's famous for its youth culture.
Fair use, fair use.
Videos. In the land of K-pop and the economic miracle, making it to the top is a national obsession. But there's a flip side to all this fun. Students are coached to the point of exhaustion.
그냥 제가 없어요. 제 자신이 있는 거죠, 뭐.
Failure is not an option.
좀 더 잘해야 될 것 같고 막 그런 좀 심리적 부담감이.
The country may be booming, but what's all this pressure doing to the kids? Cha Gil-young looks every bit the K-pop star, sharing the
Okay,
limelight
listen to this
with
now.
South Korea's biggest idols, inspiring students as they're about to take their make or break final exams.
Okay, this guy right here. Fight it, endure it, you can't fail, fall or give up. Fantastic marks and the uni you've dreamed of. This guy right here.
South Korea, Cha is a top-ranked maths teacher.
A math
And here,
teacher.
that makes him
Oh,
a
come
celebrity
on.
with an annual income of $80 million.
Okay, so I have to stop it right there. In South Korea, a person who provides education is valued so highly that they can make $8 million. And I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to play, but he doesn't actually even have a physical classroom. He literally does online subscription courses teaching children from a variety of ages. Because education is so valued in their culture, he has actually become a celebrity where he makes music and does online sessions. So when I saw this, I was like, this is crazy. How can a guy who is a teacher, and I know we talk a lot about here high value, and a lot of people will say a teacher is not high value. Sometimes it depends on the culture, because in certain places around the world, if you're providing education, you are high value. The fact that he's a teacher with no physical classroom making $8 million is just ridiculous. But you're going to see why this is crucial. Okay, so I'm not going to play it for you to see. Okay.
He doesn't actually teach in a bricks and mortar school. He's made his fortune running an online cram school, or Hagwon. Part of the country's thriving $20 billion private education
$20
business.
billion.
We're catching up with Cha on a typical day as he gets ready to record a lecture.
하루에 뭐 인터넷 강의를 2시간
How many students spend more than 2 hours a day listening to online lectures? They feel that they spend a lot of time with us. It's like when you see someone famous and you'd like to go and talk to them. So he's at the studio. Let me see if I can keep this around 5 seconds. Or YouTube nabs me. Look. Man's in the makeup chair. He's gonna film a video.
First up, he gets his makeup done. Then the hair. Today it's the firecracker style. Cha says his students, his fans, like it this way.
Okay.
And it's on to his studio for the performance.
So this is your office.
Hello, my love.
우리 연구실이고요.
Today we are in South Korea.
대부분의 사람들은
Ha ha ha.
수학을 연구하고
What's he saying?
Cha has a variety of props,
Look.
masks, costumes, and wigs he'll wear depending on his mood. Entertainment is a fundamental part of the learning process.
Okay. So This is a man who's made an $8 million a year business teaching. And what you're going to find is South Korea has some of the top, if not the top, grades and schools and students on the entire planet. So the culture and the attitude is so different that just by instilling within your kids the attitude that education is important, it makes or breaks an entire community. I don't want to talk over the whole video because they're going to get to this, but this is just a little snippet. This video is not going to be long because I don't have much to say. I always say that. But I just want to kind of open people's eyes for those who've never maybe seen something like this before, that the culture we have in the West, where we take a lot of our education for granted, this is not what people around the world are about. In places where they understand education is the only way out of maybe poverty or a door opener, they take it very seriously.
졸지 않게 해주려면 제가 좀 이렇게 재밌게 여자 가발 쓰고 나오는 거를 또 학생들이 굉장히 재밌어해요. 안 졸고.
So today he's dressing like what?
어차피 짧게 들어갈 것 같은데 방송에 들어간다면.
But it's a very serious business. Cha's main focus is the 7edu website, which has 3 million registrations, and at any one time, 300,000 students will be logged on.
Wow.
They pay $30 a month for access.
Okay, so this is the next thing that I wanted to say. Okay. The fact that he's made it subscription based, I think Boyce Watkins tried to do something like this as well, but it's not, I don't know how effective it is, but this is definitely a business model that people who have the skills to teach could take on. A small subscription fee where you can invest in this online training and you can get tutoring for your kids. Why would this be good? Because if you have women who have children or single parents, people who have kids who are on a low income, you could pay one subscription and get all of the kids around the TV together or the computer together. So there's other ways you could do it, but this is one business model for those people who do like to teach or who have the ability to teach, especially now with COVID. A lot of people are worried about their children falling behind. This is a money-making opportunity. So he says, hello, what was it? He says his name or something.
Maths lectures for all grades, ranging from the conceptual to tips on how to get better exam results.
자, 잘 봐봐. 1차 부등식은 선생님이 어떻게 하라 그랬어? X는 X끼리 모아야 돼. 그리고
Cha wants to revolutionize education, bring it online, and make it much more accessible.
별표. 내가 바쁘니까 하나만 치는데 나머지 한 99개는 니네가 시간 날 때 쳐야 돼?
Let's see. So he has like a whole promo video. He really goes in. I mean, he wants to be the best, and that's part of the culture, striving to be the best, which is a good thing.
In South Korea, education has become a sought-after commodity. Cha's 7edu is promoted like the latest movie blockbuster. And Cha is building an empire. Ultimately, he plans to go global.
이 소외된 그 아이들이 뭐 아시아만 해도 엄청나게 많은 아이들이 그 소외당하고 있거든요. 그러니까 그런 아이들에게 정말 그 인터넷 교육의 가장 강점인 그 금액을 좀 낮출 수 있는 비용을 낮출 수 있는.
It keeps the cost down, provides quality and good online content. That's his online. It's all about his online business. Okay, this is the bit I want to get to.
In the upmarket area of Gangnam,
Up from Gangnam Style.
7:30 a.m. and Kim So-hyun is just beginning her day.
I mean, these kids are going to school from about 6 something in the morning.
Preparing for the
Some of them.
CSAT test or Sonom, an exam that will determine her future.
주변 사람들이 열심히 하니까.
So she said here, everyone in Korea works hard, so you think a lot about how you also need to work just as hard as people around you.
South Korean education is the envy of the rest of the world, regularly topping international tests in maths and literacy. And that's because these students study hard. On average, they'll do 15 hours a day.
Did you guys hear that? 15 hours a day. There are 24 hours in a day, and they spend 15, which means they only have, 9 hours left? So when you factor in commuting to school, sleep, eat, and commuting back home at the end of the day, how many hours of sleep do these guys actually get? And when you actually look at this video, what you find is a lot of the children are actually asleep on their desk. Now, am I saying that this is a great way to study or to tutor kids? Obviously not, but we have to respect the work ethic and we have to respect the attitude, because this is what it takes to produce a community of highly productive people. There's kids everywhere asleep on the desk.
Some of these kids have been at Hagwons or cram school until 10 or 11 o'clock.
10 or 11 o'clock at night. That's how I look when I sleep as well. Just saying.
So-hyun is a model student at one of Seoul's highest ranking public schools. She's gone from 150th to being in the top 5.
Okay, so they go to school, and then afterwards they then go on
It's
to,
one of the few opportunities they get to socialize. But friends can also be competitors.
so there's a lot of competition because all of the children want to go to the top universities, but then after they finish the school day, my parents tend to demand more of me to do better. That's why the children are really struggling, because they're being put under a lot of familiar pressure, which is not a good thing. But then
Most will go on to cram schools.
cram schools. So after they've been at school all day,
So-hyun heads off
they
to
then
study on
go
her
to
own.
these
It's tough, but in South
specific
Korea,
private
this
schools,
is normal.
which are
She knows just one
extracurricular.
wrong answer in the CSAT exam can mean success or failure in life.
So she
And in
finishes school
preparation,
about
she's
maybe
tested
3, 4
and
o'clock.
retested.
Now she will be at these cram
She doesn't
schools.
leave for home until just before 11 p.m.
That's crazy.
실수를 했다 그러면은 정말 너무 억울해요. 눈물도 나고 그런데 뭔가 저는 안 좋은 일이
But I
있어도
tend to forget
금방
bad things
잊고
quickly,
다음
and I
시간에
believe I'll do
잘해야지.
better in the
이런
next
생각을
exam.
자주 하는 것 같아요.
So she's reached home now, I think close to midnight, and she will do that again the next day.
And across Seoul and the country, 100,000 Hagwons are about to close.
Kids everywhere
In the
just
street,
coming out
there's about a
of
dozen Hagwons,
maybe what looks
and
like a
they're still
library.
going on. The government is sending out patrols to try and enforce closing times, and they've even tried to ban Hagwons. But with every attempt to try and rein them in, they just seem to come back bigger and stronger.
So this one is a lady, she decided she doesn't want to send her
On the
daughter to
weekend,
cram
we
school.
catch up with So-hyun's mum, Nam Sonju. She's taken the difficult decision not to put her daughter into a cram school.
Because obviously there's community pressure as well to perform. There's a lot of social pressure to perform, and that's not ideal.
너무 많이 생긴 거예요. 우리 때는
But she said basically when we were students studying at school, that's all we did. We went to school, but now because they're trying to compete economically on a global scale, basically, because they said about 40 to 60 years ago, South Korea was nothing. But as a result of this drive to actually push education, now South Korea, in terms of economy, in terms of academic achievement, is the top and the envy of the world. So when you have people out here talking about, what can we do to change around the Black community, it doesn't really take a lot. It would take something as simple as, popping into the dollar store or Dollar Tree. Over here we have pound shops. You can pick up nice educational toys for as little as $1. I bought the day before, I bought a £4 atlas children's atlas. I have somebody I'm going to give that to. I've picked up so many interesting educational toys and gifts at Lidl and Aldi. I bought bat and ball. I bought a volleyball in Lidl last week. I've got somebody I'm going to give that to. And these are cheap little gifts that you can use to enrich young people's lives. But at the same time, it gets them out of the house, it gets them active, and it doesn't cost the earth. To invest in a child's education does not have to cost a lot of money. And if you have a young person who's academically doing very well, you guys, as a group, maybe you know some mothers, they can all put together $2 each and pay that child who doesn't know any better, so you're kind of exploiting them. You could say, like, we will pay you £10 or $10 an hour to tutor our group of kids. And they would think, wow, this is a great deal. I'm making $20, $30 a day over the course of the week. That's about $150. And you just get all the kids together and they tutor them as a group. You could also, if you are like skillful, you could create an online course. And as you saw with this guy, you might not make 8 million, but you could definitely have a different, like a secondary income as a tutor. But it's all about investing and enriching at an early age. Now, do I think that cram schools and this going home at 11 o'clock at night is a good thing? Definitely not. But you have to rate the attitude. You may be able to afford a mentor or a tutor. A lot of people would say, regardless of how well your kids are doing, try to get them a tutor. And if they can, pay for some type of extracurricular activity like this. So when I saw this, you can't knock the hustle. And if they were 40, 60 years ago, really at the bottom, and you can see how the southeast of Asia is expanding, we as a group of people, we can do the same thing. It might not even take that long, because now we have the internet to help us to actually perform at a higher rate.
취직할 때는 이렇게 지원서들이 쫙
Okay, I've heard when people apply for jobs,
맨 처음 일단
what does he say?
But he missed out by just 2 marks last
So this young man, he was doing
CSAT
preparation
again
for
to make
this
sure he'll
this
get in
exam
this
that's going to
time
really
around.
define the whole of your life. And he took the exam and he missed out on the grade he needed by 2 marks. So he did the whole thing again just to be able to do the exam again.
좋은 대학이 적혀져 있는 지원자들은 한쪽으로 두고 그렇지 않은 지원자들의
They want to see that you went to a good university, while the CVs without good university go straight in the bin.
그래서 다들 좋은 대학을 가려고 하고 그럴 수밖에 없는 것 같아요.
I guess that's why everybody wants to pass and they go into
Even
these
to get
cram
into this
schools.
cram school is a feat in itself. Only 1 in 50 pass the entrance exam.
Wow. And the thing about this cram school, which I don't really fancy
Students
as well,
are tested endlessly and drilled for 12 hours a day.
because the exam that they're going to do is an 8-hour exam. It's literally exam after exam, back to back. And when you get a good grade in this exam, it defines which university you can go
저는
to.
개인적으로 이렇게 나름 높은 성적을 가지고 있기는 하지만도 저는 그건
They
불합리하다고
should
생각해요.
divide the students like this, because when I look around me,
주변만 봐도 수능에서
I
좋은
don't think the
점수가
kids
나와서
who
좋은
went to
대학교를
good
가는 아이들이 있는데
universities,
저는 제가
because
봤을
they
때는
scored
그런
well
학생들 중에서도
in the CSAT,
그 학생이
are that
간
much
대학보다
better
낮은
than the
대학에
students
간
who didn't get in.
학생들보다 그렇게 뛰어나다고 그렇게 생각하진 않거든요. 뭐 꿈이란 얘기죠. 근데 꿈인데
This is a dream. What is this dream? That's the teacher. Where is the main character? So I think this looks like maybe English.
제가 하고 싶은 모든
He said, every now and then I want to play soccer
축구하는 거, 뭐 노래 듣는 거,
and I want to go outside and read a book. But when I want to do some of these things in the middle of my preparation for exam, everyone around me says,
사람들이나 다 수험생이 무슨 하면서
you should be studying.
뭔가를 하고
Okay,
싶어도
so I get that. That's not a
공부만
balanced
해야
life. So that's a bit much. Okay. And this is the bit I didn't really fancy.
Conditions are
So the
perfect
guy
for
comes
studying.
around and he sees people sleeping on the desk and he starts waking them up. Again, that's extreme. And so what South Korea is basically doing is they're actually trying to start more schools that are not so stringent. They want to actually not redefine, but they don't want it to be a case where only the top people can get opportunities. They want to have more of a relaxed attitude like it was years before. So that's definitely good because that's going to be positive for the mental health of young people. But when I saw this, I just wanted to share it because it got me to thinking, in the Black community, we might not say that a teacher is high value, but in places around the world, somebody who can instill good education in your kids really is high value. And it starts with the home. Buying cheap toys, buying, cards or dominoes. Um, Obviously, now most people have internet in their home. If you don't have a computer or a tablet, you at least could have a mobile phone that you can open certain, documentaries and let the kids learn something valuable. I mean, blocks, pen and paper, even, it gets the imagination going instead of having them in front of the TV. Paying for tutors, getting young people who are able to teach your kids, and just clubbing together and creating a study group in your home. I mean, not everybody has what it takes to homeschool, maybe for financial reasons. So something like this is an opportunity for the children. If I really had the space, I wouldn't even mind a nursery because, it gives me an excuse to play with toys all day. But it actually would mean I can interact with children and enrich their lives in a good way. What else? If you can afford a tutor, whatever your grade, the child's grade is, they could benefit from extra enrichment, extracurricular activities, and just changing the attitude in the Black community where education is at the top. Something like this could revolutionize the whole community. So that's all I've got for this one. I'll leave the link because there's another half to the video where they start talking about things like how the children often have pressures not only to perform academically but to look a certain way. A lot of people from Southeast Asia, they're influenced by Western culture. So plastic surgery has become a big thing out there. Slimming down of the nose, rounding off of the eyes, inserting like a crease in the eyelid and things like this to give them a more European look. That's another aspect to the pressure that a lot of these young people go through. And although this is an extreme case, it just shows what can be achieved when people change their attitude towards education. So that's all I've got for this one. Thanks to everybody who came through. Naima, salute to you. Shout out to everybody who'll catch this on the restream. If you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, share this video with someone who needs to see it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.